Ritual within cultic life has a body inscribed with markings that have far-reaching implications for the follower's eternal destiny. In its traditional sense, ritual has the power to determine what the participant believes about the existence of a world beyond. This type of meaning construction is what persons have always lusted to participate in, to be in process with the transpersonal. Persons that exist within these rituals learn there is something meaningful outside, but inclusive of the body. The meaning-making process lies in, ahead of, and beyond our present reality. Ritual is conjoined with media in the postmodern world in such a way as to fuse a person or population to a meaning-making apparatus known as the screen. No matter the size of the screen, the world hangs in the balance of this process called fusion. Fusion is the singular event process whereby a person loses their identity in media. This entrapment is a violation of one's will and personal efficacy. Fusion happens very early in the life of the individual as they are exposed to media. It is a reality that one is born into media and remains immersed in it most of the hours in the day and night. Fusion is inescapable for the person who lives in the postmodern world. Psychological territories are impacted by both process and content between the body and media. In fusion, the process of media is more influential than content. When one pursues this investigation of media and representation of the body. Meaning-making is a commercial activity about something that is deeper within, involving every aspect of our lives. Indeed, the person is robbed of metaphysical meanings and made subject to violation by media. The soul is emptied of its traditional meaning and given a meaning that befits the nature of our digital world. A close look at media demonstrates where the body is designed. The reaction between the corporeal body's territory and that of the imposing unnatural body of media causes a disarray of the person's conceptualization of the body. The investigation of the process of fusion and the overriding of the body through media rituals are what I intend to examine in this book. In this pursuit, it will become apparent that media are replacing ritual in the battle for physical and psychological territories of the person. The fusion process involves a symbolic process that becomes increasingly vast with each passing day, gaining influence over the person more strongly than ever. The insurmountable influx of body representations from media is often too much for the person to digest. The philosophical psychoanalytic position of Jacques Lacan on the subject of experience as it resides within conscious and unconscious space is of considerable relevance to the understanding of how the individual person experiences ritual in media. The fusion process, or media enmeshment of the person, is best understood through the Lacanian lens. The individual demonstrates weakness or alienation through the subject and becomes vulnerable to an inescapable engagement with media. Because there is no escape from this process between media and the subject, which is more than just the constant presence of media, the subject becomes dissolved in media and the media process. The dissolving subject is linked to media ritual and the loss of the ability to experience real ritual life. The thread that runs through Lacan's theory is that the subject is split between the conscious and unconscious worlds within the person. This split leads to the alienation, which then opens the way for media to infiltrate and violate the boundaries of the person. The subjective experience of a person is that which exists as a psychologically oriented phenomenon or a philosophical entity which is susceptible to being violated by something which is external to the subject. Media have the power to overwhelm the subject and envelop it in media's ways and states of being. one is compelled to relax and enjoy, or join and utilize media to reach certain attainable emotional and cognitive states. That which is actually happening is a seduction by media to draw in the subject coercively into relationship with media's content and process. The violation happens through a subtle hidden process. The entangling effects of media in relation to the subject is tantamount to abuse of the person's efficacy. The person finds themselves in a situation where there is a fixed power relationship. One does not get a say in their experience, but experiences the illusion of choice and is therefore manipulated by media. This entrapment of the individual is like reaching the point of loss of control in an intense ritual. The subject is fascinated and seduced by flash and frenzy of stimuli that media produce. Extra pixelation and brush-ups invite the person into media, and enticing scenarios engage the subject at its weakest point, the level of alienation it experiences. Because the subject is split and therefore susceptible to endorsement of unwanted content and process, media bombardment cannot be resisted. There is a sort of violation of the subject that overpowers and is the very fusion one cannot resist. The person is like a fish in water, unable to see what is happening or understand that they are constantly embedded in media. Thinking, as an experience of television and internet, has continuously exposed the person to the same content with the same messages. Persons have succeeded in pushing aside the imagination in favor of manipulation. Jacques Lacan once stated, "The unconscious is structured like a language." In the 21st century, the structure has been reduced to visual and auditory processes. Bodily experience is set aside by the influence of media. The structure of the conscious and unconscious is becoming like a screen with multiple visual and auditory interventions by media to force one to alter their consciousness in favor of the imagery and energy of the process of fusion. Slovak Zizek discusses symbolic fictions in relationship to media and the concept of self-identity, questioning the presence of an agenda within the media that causes persons to define themselves in a certain manner. The problem is, agenda aside, persons do not reflect on self-definition and identity in relation to their involvement in media. Whether one dabbles in self-defining within social media spaces or identifies with and models themselves after a television personality, as they know it, the action of media plays into one's performance of self in the world as they know it. The world, as it is known, is in fact media itself. There is a collective which the subject media process, and it proffers the many persons affected by fusion into one body. This collective happens when media take over the bodily experience of all persons. This is termed the body of media. All persons could be considered one in that media meaning-making that is consistent and equivalent for all, and create a common world view for all to share. The body of media is the conglomerate of subjects that are enveloped by fusion. The subject media process is the force of media process delivered to the masses.